Welcome back to the Leadership Innovation series. The problem statement, or the question is, how do you go and build trust with your customers? Well, I think in today's market, the answer is quite simple. Get naked, get transparent, show off to your customers what you're all about. We're going to use 3 examples. One example of a company called Megafood, which is doing incredible stuff anyway, but is also exposing themselves to their market. We're going to talk through Mercedes, that has missed a massive opportunity to expose themselves, is now facing the consequences of not doing so. And we'll talk about a local company here in South Africa under the Tiger Brands brand, where Enterprise Foods perhaps could have used this model to go and help prevent one of the issues that they've been facing over the last year or 2. If you want to go and build friendships with people, then it requires trust. And the easiest way, I think, to go and build trust is to actually be open and honest and transparent with your feelings with the people that you want to be friends with. And so I think it is exactly the same in the business context. Now, later in the year, I'll be interviewing Robert Craven, who is the CEO of Megafood, and he's also an Abundance 360 member, fortunately for me, which is how I got the contact. And I'm going to be talking to him about how they've been exposing themselves. But the video clip that I'm just overlaying now shows you exactly what they've done. They've basically put webcams across every single part of their business. Having that static webcam where you can see some really boring images of people going about their day-to-day work is compelling. Not because I want to go and view it every single day. It just immediately, at least for me, made me feel I want to trust this company. They're telling me they've got nothing to hide. Now let's go on to Mercedes. Here's a company which has obviously got a fantastic brand, but a couple of years ago, they had the problem that one of their clients brought his car into a repair center in Canada. What happened afterwards was terrible, because the technicians, when they took the car in for service, basically put it up on the ramp for 10 minutes, and then went for a joyride. They went to Wendy's, they purchased ice cream for their colleagues, and then brought it back and blamed the client for the spillage of the ice cream on the car and said it was pre-existing, and charged him for 2 or 3 hours of work for a service which obviously hadn't occurred. It was a $300 bill. The client obviously took umbrage at this, and after getting nowhere with head office, decided to go public. And what Mercedes didn't know is that he'd filmed it. That particular clip has got 4 or 5 million hits on YouTube, but imagine if they'd done it a different way. Imagine if every dealership, when you brought your car into it, put a webcam up onto the bonnet and actually filmed what was happening with your car. Think how much that would build up the trust in your relationship between that organization and yourself. No more of this black box where you don't know what's happening and you're hoping that they're doing the work that they've promised to you, actually seeing it in real time happening with evidence of what actually occurred. And now let's look at a third example, a company that is not using transparency, and maybe it would have been preventative from a big issue. I'm now talking about Enterprise Food here in South Africa, and they had an outbreak, unfortunately for them, of listeria. What would have happened if they too had been live streaming and nakedly exposing themselves to their customer base? I don't know if that would have made a difference, but I do suspect that whatever standards they were applying, they would have been improved naturally because of that live exposure. But more importantly, there's an opportunity for them now, because as they try to go and rebuild trust, what easier way to do so than exposing themselves by starting to go and look at presenting themselves to the world so people can see what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And so I'm surprised actually that more organizations don't do this, because at the end of the day, being naked and open and transparent about what you're doing for your customers is an incredibly cheap and simple way to go and build that trusting relationship with your client base and to go and encourage them to be your advocates. Now, perhaps some of you are a little bit nervous. It's a good idea, but we would feel slightly uneasy exposing ourselves because we don't want to go and show the mistakes. We're concerned that this could turn from a positive into a net negative. And I've really got 2 answers on that. If you're worried about the quality of your organization internally in the areas that you hide from your clients, I think you've got bigger problems. And you should perhaps actually look at using this as a lever to go and encourage people to tighten up in terms of what they're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. And secondly, I'm not suggesting that you do this for every single branch and every department, especially in larger organizations. That would be a prohibitively large cost to just simply start. And as with all things innovation, without experimenting first, it would be, I think, a fairly daft decision in all honesty. But I do think it's worth thinking about just starting on a small scale, testing it out and seeing what sort of response you get, seeing if it has any sort of impact, seeing what people say about it, and running a set of safe experiments to see if this, as an example of being transparent, is a good one to go and pursue.